A boat can be perfectly seaworthy and still be only one small failure away from a very different kind of voyage. Maybe an engine coughs and loses power.
Maybe a pump stops moving water. Maybe a tow line parts at exactly
the wrong moment. On a calm day, those can be repair problems.
In the Gulf of Alaska, the same failure can start removing choices.
The first choice might be speed, then direction, then the ability to hold position.
A backup that looked reassuring at the dock can become the only thing standing between the crew and the next failure. And the sea doesn't have to destroy a vessel. In one dramatic blow, it can make every response slower while the weather keeps working. A repair that needs both hands may have to wait for the next safe movement. A call for help can be made immediately, and help can still. Not one monster wave, but wind, waves, cold water, distance, and mechanical limits. Be far away. That combination is what makes the Gulf so dangerous. Beginning to work on the same problem. The chain starts over the North Pacific. Reaches the deck of a working vessel and ends where the safest option begin disappearing. Because out here, an emergency can begin before anything looks catastrophic. Picture a crew leaving port with a weather window that looks workable. The machinery is running. The deck is organized. The route is familiar. Nothing about that departure feels like the opening scene of a disaster. But the Gulf of Alaska sits beside one of the North Pacific's most persistent weather-making regions. Meteorologists use the term Aleutian Low. For a broad, semi-permanent area of lower pressure centered near the Gulf and the Aleutian Islands. It is not a single storm parked in one place, and it is not responsible for every bad day at sea. Think of it instead as a region where moving lows frequently develop, deepen, or pass through, especially during the colder part of the year. That distinction matters. A crew is not dealing with one permanent cyclone. They are
operating in a part of the ocean where strong systems can arrive again and again.
The next low may be forming or strengthening before the last rough sea.
has fully settled. On a map, that can look almost abstract. Pressure lines
and cloud bands, a broad swirl over thousands of square miles. On a vessel,
it becomes something much more physical. Wind direction shifts. The deck begins taking spray.
a route that looked routine becomes slower. A captain may have to choose
between staying on course, changing speed, seeking shelter, or giving the weather more room. The Gulf is not dangerous because storms somehow hunt individual boats. It is dangerous because boats repeatedly have to work inside a region where powerful North Pacific weather is a normal part of the operating environment, and that creates a different mindset. Forecasting is not simply about deciding whether rain is coming. It is about how much margin a vessel is likely to have tomorrow, 6 hours from now, or even 2 hours from now. A shift of wind can change which coast. Offers shelter. A low that deepens faster than expected can change whether a route is still comfortable or already committing the vessel to hours of difficult motion. Hours earlier can meet a boat farther from harbor and with fewer easy choices. The farther a boat moves from shelter, the more expensive a bad forecast becomes. Turning around takes time. Slowing down takes time. Rerouting can add distance. Waiting can. Mean losing a fishing window, missing a delivery, or sitting exposed while another system approaches. So the real question is not just, will there be a storm? It is, what? Will that storm do to the sea by the time the vessel is in it? Pressure lines on a weather map do not capsize a boat. Wind and water do.
The physical work. The important step is following that energy all the way down to the
surface of the ocean, where a small mechanical failure can become much harder to manage.
Wind makes waves, but wind speed alone is not enough. 3 things matter enormously. How hard the wind blows, how long it keeps blowing, and how much open water it was. Has to work across. Oceanographers call that third distance fetch. The longer the wind transfers energy across the surface in roughly the same direction, the more opportunity waves have to grow.
A short burst of strong wind near shore doesn't automatically create the same sea as where
It's a broad storm that has been pushing across open water for hours. Strength matters. Duration matters.
fetch matters. Now put those together over the North Pacific. A large weather system
Drive wind across a huge reach of ocean. The surface becomes rougher, then more organized.
Waves build, interact, and arrive at a vessel carrying energy that was collected far beyond the horizon. From the bridge, a single dramatic wave is only part of the danger.
The real burden comes from repeated motion and what it does to the vessel and the people inside it. The bow climbs, the deck tilts, the hull falls into the next trough. Equipment is loaded in directions it would never feel at the dock. Spray crosses the working deck. Loose objects become hazards. A person moving through the passageway begins timing each step with the roll. And the sea does not need to be breaking over the wheelhouse to change what the crew can do. Suppose the propulsion system suddenly loses power. In flat water, that is already serious. But the crew still has a stable platform. They may have time to diagnose the fault,
Restart equipment, call for assistance, or prepare a tow. Now remove the stable platform.
The vessel is no longer choosing its relationship with the waves in the same way.
It may fall broadside. It may drift toward a less favorable position. Every minute without sitting.
Propulsion can change where the next wave strikes and how much freedom remains to maneuver. That is the part people on shore can easily miss. Rough water is not.
Simply bad weather around a broken boat. The water changes the repair problem itself. A crew member trying to reach an engine space may have to stop and brace. A hatch that should stay dry may be exposed to more water.
A tow connection that would be routine in protected water becomes harder to establish and harder to keep loaded safely.
The first failure has not necessarily become worse mechanically, but its consequences have expanded. The same is true even before anything fails. A larger sea can force a vessel to reduce speed to avoid punishing impacts. Slowing down changes arrival time. Changing heading can protect the hull, but move the boat away from its shortest route. Every adjustment trades one advantage for another. The sea is already shaping the decision tree before the emergency begins.
Those hours of wind across open water matter, because they help determine how
much sea a crew may face when one machine finally stops. The result shows up in what people aboard can still do, so a wave forecast is more than a number on a screen. It is an advance estimate of workload.
it hints at whether the deck will be usable, and whether speed can be maintained.
It also hints at whether a tow can be handled cleanly and how. Much energy the crew will spend simply staying upright. And that brings us to the next change in the system. A vessel can still be afloat. The engine room can still be intact. No one may be injured. Yet the crew
can already be losing something valuable: the ability to perform ordinary tasks at ordinary speed.
Imagine a simple job. One crew member needs to cross an exposed section of deck. Open an access point, check a pump, and report what they see. At the dock, it is barely a job at all. In a heavy sea, every step changes. The worker waits for the roll, moves, grabs a rail, waits again. Water crosses the deck. The next handhold is only a few feet away, but reaching it at the wrong.
Moment can mean a fall. The person is not moving slowly because they are confused.
They are moving slowly because the vessel is moving under them. Now imagine the same. Problem with a tool bag, or a hose, or a piece of equipment that has to stay dry. Or two people who have to coordinate the same task while the wind is loud enough to make normal conversation difficult. The job expands. A second crew member may have to stand by just to make the first movement safe. Someone on the bridge may have to alter speed for a few minutes so the deck team can work. Another task waits. None of those decisions is dramatic by itself. Together, they consume the one resource every emergency spends: time. That is capability loss. Nothing dramatic has to fail at this stage. The vessel may still have power. The crew
may still know exactly what to do. But rough motion starts charging a time penalty.
for almost every action. A valve takes longer to reach. A line takes longer to rig. An inspection takes longer because the person cannot keep both hands free. A repair may have to be paused while the vessel moves through the worst part of a wave cycle. And fatigue enters quietly. Bracing against motion uses energy. Concentrating on balance uses attention.
Repeating the same physical correction hundreds of times does not look cinematic, but after.
Hours it changes the quality and speed of work. The effect is cumulative. A crew
that has been riding rough water for 6 hours is not starting the emergency MI. From the same physical condition as a crew that just stepped aboard. The equipment may put of redundancy. Human attention does not have an unlimited spare unit waiting in a locker. Now take that same engine loss in these conditions. The crew still has a repair option.
But the option now costs more time to use. If the problem is easy, that may not matter. If a second problem starts while the first is being handled,
it matters a great deal. A vessel is a network of capabilities: propulsion, steering, pumps. Electrical power, communications, watertight boundaries, deck equipment, crew movement. Those systems don't have to fail together.
Rough conditions can simply make them harder to use together. That difference is easy.
To underestimate. We tend to picture emergencies as a sudden moment when something breaks. On a working ship, the dangerous transition can begin earlier. Everything may still work for it. On paper, while fewer things can be done quickly, safely, and at the same time. That is the human scale of the Gulf. A 20-foot walk becomes a timed movement. A minor leak becomes a job that needs 2 people instead of 1.
A restart procedure that should take minutes competes with the need to secure loose gear.
Monitor flooding, maintain communications, and keep the vessel positioned as well as possible. By now, the ship may not have lost many options. But it is becoming slower at using
the options it has. And once time begins disappearing, the next stage can arrive surprisingly fast.
Margin for error can sound like an abstract safety phrase. At sea, it is much. Easier to understand as a list of things you can still do. Can you slow down?
Can you turn into a better heading? Can you hold position while someone makes a repair?
Can you wait for daylight? Can you call for help early enough that help?
Has time to reach you? Can a backup system take over if the primary?
One stops? Those are not theoretical questions. They are the shape of your margin.
At the beginning of a problem, a crew may have several answers available at once.
Lose propulsion and perhaps steering still works. Lose one pump and perhaps another can take over.
Lose the ideal route, and perhaps there is room to turn away from the worst weather. But every option has conditions attached to it. A backup pump still needs power. A tow still needs a connection that can be made and held. A helicopter.
Still needs range, weather, visibility, and a workable place to conduct the rescue. A crew
can call early, but the vessel still has to survive the time between the call and the arrival of help. So margin does not disappear in one step. It can narrow. First, the best option goes away. Maybe the vessel can no longer maintain the heading. That keeps the waves on the bow. Then the second best option becomes the main plan.
Perhaps the crew can still reduce the drift with partial power, or hold long enough and
for another vessel to close the distance. Then that plan begins carrying more load than it was ever supposed to carry. The backup pump is no longer insurance. It is the pump. The secondary radio is no longer spare equipment. It is the connection to help. is when an emergency can accelerate. A backup is safest while it is.
Still truly a backup. Once it becomes the only system left, the next failure carries. A much larger consequence. And the crew may not get a clean signal that says, the margin is now gone. There may be no single alarm for too few choices left.
The warning is the pattern itself. More tasks are waiting. More systems are carrying double duty.
More decisions are becoming hard to reverse. Think back to the powerless vessel in rough water.
At first, the crew may still have room to drift. They may still have good communications. They may still have a working tow point. They may still have shelter downwind. Now take those away one by one. Not all at once, just fast enough. That the crew is always solving the last problem while the next decision window is getting smaller. That pattern appeared in a real casualty south of Alaska, the first.
Case did not begin with a vessel instantly doomed. It began with layers of protection,
alternatives, and backup plans. The danger grew as those layers became harder to use. And when enough options depend on each other, one failure can pull directly on the next.
In late 2012, the mobile offshore drilling unit Kuluk was under tow south.
Of Alaska. Here, disappearing options were no longer theoretical. The key is not made of up.
To treat the casualty as one giant event. It was a sequence. Conditions were rough. The towing system was under pressure. Problems developed in the tow.
Then the towing vessel Ivik lost propulsion. Suddenly, a plan that depended on controlled towing had to survive without the same level of control. The Kuluk itself, and
But the useful question had changed from, what is the normal plan, to, which remaining plan, and can still work in this weather? The tow was re-established and lost again. Additional vessels became part of the response. Each new connection offered another possibility, but it also had to function. In the same heavy conditions that were already stressing the original system. This is the part of a casualty that can look confusing from the outside. Why not simply attach another line?
Why not send another vessel? Because every new answer has requirements. A line has to be.
Past. Equipment has to take the load. Vessels have to maneuver close enough to help.
Without becoming casualties themselves. The environment does not pause while the response is reorganized. That is, and still leave less room than before. The critical measure is not effort. It is how
much usable control remains after each attempt. You do not necessarily see one failure that explains everything. You see control being rebuilt, weakened, rebuilt again, while the environment keeps applying pressure.
A backup becomes the main plan. Then another backup has to support that one. The crew
still has choices, but they are more fragile than the choices they had hours earlier. Eventually,
18 people were evacuated from Kaluk. The unit later grounded on December 31. The National Transportation Corps
Safety Board did not reduce the outcome to a simple claim that the storm caused it.
its investigation focused on risks in the towing operation and
on failures to adequately assess and mitigate those risks. The ocean did not make every mechanical or operational decision in this casualty. But rough conditions made each weakness more expensive when a plan with limited margin began to unravel. Kuluk gives us time to watch the layers erode. Not every.
Accident give that much time. A few months earlier, the fishing vessel Advantage was worth
underway near Kodiak when the situation changed much faster. The vessel developed a severe list.
Water entered. Stability was lost, and the emergency accelerated toward capsizing and sinking. Investigators could not determine what caused the initial loss of stability. There is no reliable basis for filling in that missing cause after the fact. For this comparison, the crucial part begins after the vessel crossed that threshold. Unlike the long Kuluk sequence, the advantage does not give us a comfortable series of pauses in which to examine.
One lost option at a time. Once the list became severe, and water entered,
the physical condition of the vessel itself was changing. The platform that you the crew needed in order to solve the emergency was becoming the emergency. A stable vessel.
Can absorb motion and still return upright. A vessel that has lost enough stability
is playing by different rules. Openings that were safely above the water can become exposed.
Flooding can increase. The time available to diagnose the first cause can be overtaken
by the need to survive the result. 3 of the 4 people aboard were initially rescued.
The captain was recovered later and died. The fact itself is stark. The vessel's condition deteriorated faster than the crew could recover control. Put Kuluk and Advantage beside each other, and the difference becomes useful. With Kuluk, the margin.
Shrank over a long sequence. Control was lost, partly rebuilt, then threatened again.
With Advantage, the timeline compressed after a critical threshold was crossed. There were fewer.
Chances to stop and rethink the situation. Because the vessel itself was becoming puzzling.
Less capable of keeping people out of the water. Different vessels, different circumstances, different unanswered questions.
but both reveal the same larger truth. Safety at sea is not a single
system that is either working or failed. It is a stack of options. And the stack can get shorter. That changes the most basic assumption on any vessel. For most of the voyage, the ship is the thing protecting you from the Gulf. It keeps you dry. It gives you power, shelter, communications, pumps, heat, flotation, and distance. It's from the water. But if enough of those layers disappear, a terrible decision can appear. The place that has protected you may no longer be the safest place. To remain, and the moment a person leaves the vessel, the accident changes again. Leaving a failing vessel can solve one problem and begin another. The machinery is no. Longer the only thing losing capability. Now the human body is exposed directly to the Gulf. Many people hear cold water and think first about hypothermia, as if the danger begins only. After the body has been cooling for a long time. Sudden immersion can create an emergency. Much earlier, cold shock can trigger an involuntary gasp and rapid breathing. That matters immediately. Because breathing is the first thing a person needs to control in rough water. If the face goes under at the wrong moment, an involuntary gasp is not a small inconvenience. The first job is not to swim heroically. It is to stay afloat, keep the airway clear, and regain control of breathing. That first minute can feel psychologically unfair.
A person may have survived the sinking, reached the surface, and still be in immediate trouble before making a single deliberate move. The body is reacting before the mind.
Has finished understanding the new situation. Then comes another loss. Useful function. Cold water.
Doesn't have to make a person unconscious before it changes what they can do. Hands become less effective. Grip can weaken. Coordinated movement becomes harder. A ladder, a line, a survival device, or the side of a raft can become much more difficult to use. This is the same pattern we saw on the vessel, now compressed into the human body. A hand that cannot close firmly around a line has lost an option.
Legs that cannot kick effectively have lost an option. A person who cannot climb back. Aboard, even when the ladder is within reach, has lost an option. None of those. Failures looks as dramatic as a capsizing vessel. But each one reduces the number
of ways the person can help themselves. Capability is disappearing. A person may still be
awake, still understand the situation, and still be losing the physical ability to solve it. First, useful function next, prolonged cooling after that. The timing is not the same. For every person or every condition, which is why simple you have exactly this.
Many minutes rules can be misleading. In November 2024, the fishing vessel Tsiu lost.
Power after an electrical fire near Kayak Island. The Coast Guard reported roughly 15-foot seas, winds around 29 miles per hour, and air and water temperatures near 47 degrees. Three people were ultimately rescued from the water. Those numbers put the conditions around the rescue into human scale. 47-degree water is not a dramatic movie effect.
It is an environment where a person in the sea may be.
Fighting, breathing, movement, waves, and time all at once. And that is where cold water connects directly to rescue. Once a person enters the water,
the question is no longer only, can help be sent? It becomes,
how much useful time remains before help can actually get beside them?
a rescue center can know exactly where a vessel is and still not be beside it.
In an emergency, the gap between knowing where someone is and physically reaching them can be brutal. A distress call is only the beginning of a chain. The message may be clear, the position may be accurate, the need may be obvious. That is still not the same. As having a rescue asset already in the air above the casualty, someone has to receive the information and understand what kind of response is needed. An aircraft or vessel happen to be assigned. A crew has to launch. Then they still have to cross the distance. And the clock at the casualty does not stop while any of that happens.
Water keeps entering. A disabled vessel keeps drifting. A person in cold water keeps cooling.
Weather keeps changing. Even after rescuers reach the general area, arrived as not
the same as rescued. The target has to be located in real conditions, not as
on a clean map. Visibility may be poor. Spray can hide a small vessel, and in a large sea, a helicopter crew has to approach and hold a workable position.
A surface crew has to close the distance without creating a second emergency.
Then comes the final step, actually transferring a person out of danger. A hoist requires position, timing, communication, and enough control for the aircraft to stay where you the rescue needs it. A boat-to-boat transfer has its own geometry, two vessels moving differently in the same waves can make a few feet of separation feel enormous. None of this means rescue is slow because people are not moving urgently. It means urgency does not remove physics. Fuel matters, range matters, weather matters, sea state matters. The same gulf that created the original problem is still present when rescuers arrive. And those limits interact. A longer transit means more fuel has already been used before the rescue begins. Poor visibility can lengthen the search in the final miles. A violently moving vessel can turn.
A strange kind of suspense. From the casualty, help may already be on the way.
The crew may even know what aircraft is coming and from where. But the rescue
is still only an option in progress. It becomes real only when the aircraft is overhead.
The hoist is usable, and the person is physically clear of the vessel or the water.
At that point, distance becomes more than miles. Distance is time the casualty must continue surviving on its own. That is why a remote rescue can feel so different from an emergency near a harbor. Help can be fully committed, highly capable, and moving as fast as conditions allow, while the people waiting still experience every minute as if nothing has changed yet. And sometimes the first form of help is not an evacuation at all. It is a tool, a pump, a line. or a temporary fix meant to create enough margin for the next step.
That is exactly what happened south of Cordova in the summer of 2025.
On August 1, 2025, the tug Sea Ranger was taking on water roughly
130 miles south of Cordova. 4 people were aboard. At first,
the problem still had an onboard answer. The Coast Guard delivered a dewatering pump. That pump was not a victory. It was an option. And for the crew, that difference matters. A pump means the problem may still be fought from the vessel. It means there may still be a path that does not end with everyone entering. Water or being lifted away, if it could move water faster than water was. Coming in, it could buy time. If the crew could keep the vessel stable and keep.
Bring it right here, watch the swing. Got it, it's secure, thumbs up.
Sometimes rescue begins quietly, not with a helicopter lifting everyone away, but with a new
tool arriving before the old tools are exhausted. For the crew, the pump represented real relief.
A new option had arrived, and for a while, that option meant hope.
Then the situation worsened. Sea Ranger was reported adrift. Smoke was reported.
In the engine room, the dewatering pump could not be started. Now is the same equipment means something very different. A pump sitting on deck is
not the same as a pump moving water. A vessel with propulsion is.
not the same as a vessel adrift. A crew with an engine room. It is not the same as a crew dealing with smoke in that space. The options were still present physically, but fewer of them were usable.
That is when the rescue plan changes character. The question is no longer,
only how to keep Sea Ranger afloat. It becomes how to get 4.
people away from a vessel whose remaining self-rescue margin is shrinking. The pattern
is clear now. The problem is no longer just keeping the vessel afloat.
It is keeping enough usable options alive to get 4 people out.
When the helicopter arrived, it did not make the Gulf safe.
It introduced another option into a system that was running out of them. The aircraft can hold position, but it can't make the deck stop moving.
The hoist can lift a person, but only after the crew creates a workable moment.
To use it. This is rescue as a physical operation, not a symbol. The 4
people aboard Sea Ranger were hoisted to safety. No injuries were reported by the Coast Guard.
That is a relief, and it should feel like one. But the lesson is,
not that rescue always arrives in time. The lesson is that, in this case,
a workable option arrived before the remaining options disappeared. The rescue leaves a quieter question, and maybe a harder one. After seeing a vessel taking on water, drifting, filling with smoke, and finally being evacuated by helicopter, the obvious response seems to be,
stay away from this sea. Yet the next morning, other vessels still leave port. Why? The answer is not that people working the Gulf do not understand the danger. In many cases, they understand it far better than anyone watching from shore. They know what
a forecast means for a route. They know which sound from an engine room is normal,
and which one needs attention. They know how quickly a deck changes when the weather turns.
and they go back, because the Gulf is not a stage built for danger stories. It is also a workplace. Calling the Gulf a workplace changes the way those departures look. A departure from Kodiak or Cordova is not automatically an act of defiance. Often it is closer to a truck leaving a yard or a crew starting.
A shift, except the road itself can change character while they are on it. Fishing vessels leave because fishing is work. Cargo and service vessels move because coastal.
Communities need supplies, equipment, fuel, and connections. Ports exist because people live here, not
because the sea makes for dramatic stories. That changes how those departures should be understood.
It would be easy to treat every departure as a choice between bravery and fear. Real life is less theatrical. People have jobs. Families depend on income. Communities depend. On transport. A vessel can represent a business, a season, a crew's livelihood,
or the link between places that can't simply replace the ocean with a highway.
So the question is not, why would anyone be foolish enough to go?
The harder question is, how do people keep working when the risk?
Can never be reduced to zero. That question matters because it prevents us
from romanticizing the Gulf. The sea is not valuable because it is dangerous.
The work is not meaningful because someone might die doing it. The meaning comes from ordinary life continuing in a place where ordinary work requires unusual preparation.
There is emotion in that precisely because it is ordinary. Boots on a dock.
A coffee cup in a wheelhouse. A weather check before dawn. A crew member tightening. Something that was already checked yesterday. The drama comes later, if it comes at all. The routine is what allows people to return. A crew ties up, repairs gear, checks weather, sleeps, loads supplies, and leaves again. Most voyages do not become rescue cases.
Most engine problems do not become groundings. Most rough days end with the vessel.
Still under control. Safety is built from ordinary decisions. Noticing a problem early.
Using a backup, changing route, delaying departure, or deciding that the margin is. Getting too small. From here, the focus shifts from losing options to creating them.
People can't make the Gulf of Alaska harmless. What they can do is give.
The first failure a better chance not to become the second. Start with weather.
If uncertainty is the problem, better forecasting does not stop a storm. It moves. If uncertainty is the problem, better forecasting does not stop a storm. It moves.
or simply knowing that the margin on a planned trip is smaller than it looked yesterday.
That is not control over the weather. It is control over when a decision is made.
An earlier decision can be far more powerful than a heroic decision made too late. The technology matters because it moves choices to the part of the timeline where choices are still cheap.
Now think about machinery. Redundancy matters because the loss of one system
should not immediately remove the next safe option. A backup pump, alternate power, a second way to communicate, or another method of controlling flooding, all serve the same purpose. They can keep one problem from becoming a cascade. The backup doesn't have to be perfect.
It has to create time. Kuluk and Sea Ranger show the same principle from different angles.
A secondary option may not solve the whole emergency. It may only keep the next. Option alive long enough to be used. Cold water reveals the same logic in
a different form. Survival equipment can't make 40-degree water warm. Flotation and protective gear can turn
reserve function and reduce the body's immediate workload. That improves the chance that a person
can still use the rescue option when it arrives. Distance has its own answer.
Base, this is Vessel E. Radio check confirmed. We have the position.
Good communications and accurate position information do not move the rescue base closer.
They reduce delay before the response starts, and reduce uncertainty about where the casualty part
is located. Then training and coordination matter at the far end of the chain.
Training can't flatten the sea. It can reduce the number of decisions that must
be invented under pressure, leaving attention for the part of the emergency that is. Genuinely new. A helicopter, a rescue swimmer, a pump, a TOW, or another. Vessel is only an available option if people can use it under pressure.
Practice is how a complicated action becomes something a crew can still perform.
When the deck is moving and the clock is running. Seen separately, forecasting,
redundancy, survival equipment, communications, and training can look like a list of safety tools.
Across these accidents, they all do versions of the same job. They preserve time.
They preserve capability. They preserve one more choice. But that still leaves the final question. If people can forecast earlier,
build better backups, locate vessels faster, and conduct rescues more effectively, have we finally controlled the Gulf of Alaska? No. The Gulf has not been made safe. It has been made more understandable. We can see weather earlier, build more redundancy, carry better survival equipment, communicate farther offshore, and put rescuers into situations that were once much harder to reach. But none of those changes removes the basic relationship that was there from the beginning.
A storm takes away sea room. Heavy motion takes away speed and precision. A mechanical
failure takes away capability. Cold water takes capability from the human body. Distance takes away time.
And every layer of preparation is an attempt to put some of that margin back. That is why the most dangerous moment is not always the biggest wave or the loudest alarm. Sometimes it is the quiet moment, when the best option is gone. The backup is. Carrying the problem, and the next decision has to work. Disaster begins when safe options disappear.
Faster than people can create new ones. The same pattern applies to ordinary voyages that never
become headlines. A successful voyage is not proof that the Gulf is tame. Often, it means
enough margin was preserved for the sea to remain a problem instead of becoming a catastrophe.
and sometimes that margin is surprisingly small. One more minute. One more pump that starts.
One more safe heading. One more rescue option that arrives while there is still time to use it. The Gulf of Alaska does not need to take everything at once.
It only needs the safe choices to disappear faster than we can replace them.
If you want to see how the same
struggle for margin plays out in another northern sea.
The North Sea story is waiting on screen.